Hello and welcome to Murphy's Garden, and you join me on this beautiful day, first day of proper heat, lovely warm temperatures today, and we're in the vegetable patch. Murphy and I have just stopped to have a little cuddle, but we've got lots to do in the vegetable patch, and we've just got this window of opportunity just to make some big changes that we want to get done. So Alistair's hard at work behind me doing that, but I've got plenty to be getting on with. I've got a lot of the crops are in. I've got the broad beans have been in for some time, and you can see that they're getting quite big. I might just let them get a little bit bigger, and then I'll pinch out the tops. But I've got this I think it's quite a good way of doing it now, having tried lots of different methods over the years. I used to do lots of bamboos and then zigzag the string back and forward, but I went to a garden and saw them doing it this way, where you just have rows and then have the broad beans being supported on both sides, and that seems to work really well. And the advantage of that is you can still get in there with your hoe and just hoe off any weeds. So finding that's working really well. The onions are in and the shallots are in. I've just planted the French beans because they're quite tender and you shouldn't plant those until May. And also I've got the potatoes in, so you can just see the 3 rows of potatoes, and I have got some more actually inside that I missed, I forgot to plant, so I might put those in some pots as well. So they're all in. Murphy's using them to lie against, so quite make a nice little pillow for him when he's sleeping. So the area that I want to do now is just behind the camera. I had planned on using that as my cut flower area, but I've since decided I might be better to use that one as it's more uniform in shape and more rectangular, so I'm going to use that one, and this one I'm going to use for my squashes. So I'm just in the process of weeding. Any bare soil obviously just gets weeds over time, so we have been busy in the other parts of the garden just mulching with bark chippings, and I was thinking about perhaps trying to use grass cuttings, because I know other people have said that works really well. I've always been a little bit nervous about doing it in case it spreads grass seed all over the vegetable patch, so I've kind of not done it up to now, but perhaps I will try it, because it definitely works covering the bare soil to stop weeds coming. Otherwise you just seem to go around in circles constantly weeding. So I might try that. I'd be interested to know if any of you have done it and whether or not you find it to be successful. So I will take you up to some other parts of the garden just to show you what Alistair's up to. Here are the broad beans. Here's Murphy having a little sleep. And the onions are here. These are the shallots, and they're doing quite well. And the French beans have just gone in there, and I just put a bit of wire just to get them started. This area, this is an apple tree which is in a bottomless pot, so it does go into the ground, but probably could do with being watered. These are the fruit bushes. We've got black currants and we've got gooseberries. We need to do a lot of work here. Strawberries are there. We've just harvested the rhubarb. Do need to do a lot of weeding in there. That's the blueberry, which needs to be fed. This area we're going to work on and just have a big sort out in this area. And I'm going to put some storage in here for pots and things. Then you'll see this border here, which is a lovely size, big rectangular border. And this is going to be my cut flower garden, and it's already got the irrigation pipe, so I think that will work really well. So I need to get on and just clear these crops. We'll harvest the rest of the leeks and any of the chard that we want to use. Now you see some wood here, which Alistair's going to use for some sleepers here for the raised borders, and the 2 bits nearest here are for some gate posts. So he's just in the process of levelling the land, getting it really flat, and then we're going to be putting in some raised borders. And he's done the same on this side. It's going to be much better, because what was happening with this yew hedge, the yew hedge was encroaching a bit too much into the vegetable patch. You'll see that it's had a good cut. Alistair's cut it back hard. Yew grows from old wood, so it will regenerate absolutely fine. It will encourage it to grow actually. And just by cutting it back, it means it doesn't encroach on the bed, so it would be a lot better. So that's looking good. Then if we head around, this is quite chaotic round here. This is my all the plants which have been outside for the last week really in the day, hardening off. So they're doing really well and they love being outside. It was wet the other day and they just grew so much in that day just with all the rain. And we've got the salad. This is all salad in here which we're enjoying. We're eating the lettuce now, it's looking good. We've got some parsley, we've got some spring onions, some carrots in there as well. But all of this will start to be used in the vegetable garden. So a lot of the limoniums and the straw flowers we can plant in rows. And there's so much in here. I've just been potting a few things up. We've got tomatoes. I might try some tomatoes outside this year as well. More little cuttings, little seedlings in here. Tomatoes are getting quite a good size. Some of them are bigger than others. We've got lots of different tigerella, money makers. I can't remember. Noix de Creme, which is a black one. We've got some artichokes there, which I want to use for cut flowers, some cosmos, antirrhinum, so much to plant. So I'm really excited to make a little bit of start, getting them in the ground. So I've just had a little sort out of the cucumbers and the courgettes. So these are all the courgettes and squashes. Not sure if that's too many. How many courgettes does a girl need? I'm not sure. I never waste any though, must admit. So let's get to work. So I'm refraining from doing what I really want to do, and that is getting stuck into the cut flower garden. That's the bit that is most exciting to me. But I'm going to try and be logical, and I'm starting at the back of the vegetable patch and going to work forward in a logical manner, resisting my tendency for more erratic behaviour. So just going to get this area all weeded. I know some people hate weeding, but to be honest, I quite like it. I find it's a good opportunity to put mind into neutral and just do the task in front of you, and I find it quite therapeutic actually. And I definitely recommend wearing knee pads. And have you noticed that I wear knee pads? These trousers, I'm sorry, I wear all the time, but I find I just can't get things done the same when I wear leggings or jeans or anything. These are such good trousers. And I find knee pads in the trousers so invaluable. I used to use a kneeling pad, but it's just a bit of a faff having to move it every time you move, whereas these come with you. So I'm pretty much there now. The area is weed free and ready to plant. And incidentally, I did put some of our homemade compost on this site earlier in the year, so I won't be adding any more. So I'll just take you over it just to show you what Alistair's up to. So Al's using his whacker plate just to compact the ground and make everything nice and flat. Now we bought this quite a few years ago now, and we've used it such a lot because we're always doing different areas in the garden, so we've definitely got our money's worth. But you can of course just hire one if you're just doing just one area and you need it for the day. So back to my job. So I've just raked the area just to make a nice tilth on the soil, and then place the plants into the positions that I think they're going to go in. And then I just put these little stepping stones so that I avoid walking on the soil now that it's raked. I can get away with a little bit more than perhaps those of you who are on clay, because you have problems with compaction, but because our soil is so light and sandy, it's not too much of a problem if I do walk on it. It really doesn't compact. So as with anything, when you've been growing things for a while, you start to experiment with different ways of doing things, and this is how I find to have the greatest success growing courgettes. So what I tend to do is put them in, dig a hole, and then I submerge a pot next to them. And what that means is that when you're watering, particularly when they start to get bigger and it's quite hard to get to the roots because there's foliage everywhere and it gets quite chaotic. So if you can see the pot, then you can just literally fill up the water. The water will eventually drain down, and when the roots will find their way towards that moisture. So I tend to do that, and then I'll also just make a little trench around the plant. This is particularly good when they're quite newly planted. and the water will just sit in that little pool and then drain down slowly. So it's a really good way of just making sure that the plants stay well watered in the height of the summer. And again, consider your soil type. So if you're on clay, then making a little well like this might not be a good idea, because you can end up with a kind of sump of wet, soggy soil. So really tailor it to your soil type. And in this part of the garden, I've got these little stepping stones, and I can move them. I don't want anything permanent, because it depends on what I'm growing as to where I want them. So they're quite adaptable. I can move them around where I want them. Done that one. I'll go and fill these up for the other ones at the back. So in here, what I've planted, I've got the Romanesco courgette, I've got the yellow variety Soleil, and then I've also got lots of butternut squashes. They're at the back. I've deliberately put them at the back because they don't need harvesting as often as the courgettes. The courgettes are coming every day. So the squashes that I'm growing are hawk, which is a kind of traditional butternut squash like you might see in the shops. Then another one is Marine de Chiagia. Don't know if that's how you say it. I haven't grown that one. And then the other one that I'm growing is one called Blackfoot So, which is a beautiful one, very sort of nutty flavour, and you can eat the skin and all. When you roast it in the oven, it's just delicious. So I'm growing that one again for sure. So I'm going to conduct an experiment. So I've used some of the grass. Alistair cut the grass yesterday. It was on the compost heap. So I've taken it off the compost heap, and I've done quite a thick layer of clippings, grass clippings, all around the plants. I haven't put it near the plants because it is actually very hot, but it will be quite good because it will keep this area warm. It's giving off heat, but it won't burn the plants. So I'll be interested to see how it works. I'm hesitant to do the whole thing in case it's a disaster and I get grass seed everywhere. So I don't think I'm going to do the whole thing. I'll do this half and then I'll leave this half, and then we can conduct an experiment, and if it works well then I'll do the rest of it, but it does seem quite good actually. So Al's just busy painting the wood. This is the bit of the sleepers that will be in contact with the ground, and he's using a substance called blackjack, which is bitumen, and that just stops, helps keep the wood from decaying. Lovely evening for it, it's absolutely beautiful. So that area all done, I'm now onto the exciting bit. So this border is the border, the bed, sorry, that I'm going to use for my cut flowers. So I've just got to weed it, and I'm going to take out some of the old crops, the chard and the leeks. I've got the irrigation piping already down, and I assume that still works. So yeah, I'm going to crack on with that. Perhaps plant tomorrow, it's getting a bit late, but maybe plant tomorrow. So I've weeded the site, it's very stony. I'm not adding any compost to this area because I don't want the growth of the flowers to be all leaves. I want them to produce flowers. The leeks that we were growing, absolutely lovely crop. We have had quite a lot of them already, but these were just some that were left over. So I just wash them and then place them on a tray and put that directly in the freezer. And once they're frozen, then I just simply put them into freezer bags ready to use when I need leeks. And it's the next day, and I think Murphy is every bit as excited as me at getting the flower garden planted.
Go, go, go!
So to start with, I'm planting Nigella papillosa African Bride, And this is recommended to plant directly, direct sown. So I haven't started these off in the greenhouse. I'm going to put them straight in. Because our ground is quite stony, I've made a little trench and I've filled it with some nice fine compost. And then I'll just sow the seeds directly onto this compost, which I have already watered. And I'll just do it as finely as I possibly can. And this is also called Love in a Mist, and it's nice to grow as a fresh flower, but also the seed heads look lovely and it dries really nicely as well. So everything in this bed are plants and flowers that dry really well, because I don't always have time to deal with them and they're fresh, and sometimes I like to dry them and then have, when I've got more time, especially in the winter, I can do more things with them, creative things. And I'll just cover it over with a light dusting of compost. And I'll just lightly press down with the back of the homie just to make contact, the seed to have good contact with the soil. And I'll do the same, make another little trench using this homie. The homie is a really good tool it's very adaptable for all sorts of things. Great for weeding, but also you turn it the other way and use it to make little drills. And I'll fill the little drill with some multi-purpose compost again. And this one is called Nigella hispanica. I actually got this free with the Garden Illustrated magazine, I think. So I'll just dampen the soil a little bit before I cast the seeds, because otherwise they'll just get washed away. So that's done. Next, I'm going to get on and plant all the little plants that I've been growing on in the greenhouse. They're lovely, strong little plants, and they're really ready to go in. They're getting quite big. So these are the straw flowers, they're heliochrysums, and there's different colours. I've got silvery rose and various different colours. So I've put them in. I read that they should be thinned. If you're growing them directly, they should be thinned to 15 centimetres apart. So that's what I've spaced them as, but I think I've probably put them in far too close together. So I'm really not sure. This is the first time I've grown these in the garden before, as I've grown the Nigella in the garden before in a border. But I've never grown it in this way, growing things in rows for harvest. So it's all a learning curve. I may get it wrong, I may get some things right, but it's all learning. So I think I've just got so many plants, I'm quite keen to get them in as tightly as I possibly can. So that might be a mistake, I don't know. I will, when I get to do more, I'll perhaps space them further apart and just experiment a little bit. It's all trial and error. So I just continued to plant all the plants, and I'll come on to what they all are in a minute. So first of all, I've got quite a lot of seed packets, so it's getting a bit confusing which is which. So these are all the seeds that I've planted, and I'll come on to individually which are which. So we've got lots of the plants in here, all things that dry really well, and you can enjoy them fresh, but they also dry. So we've got Nigella, which I've direct sown because it recommended those being direct sown. Then I've got the straw flowers in here, and then here I've got limonium. And then further back I've got amaranthus. I've never grown limonium before, I've never grown amaranthus before, that's all new. I have grown the straw flowers. So we're just constructing, we've got this fencing, this plastic fencing which we had for another project, and it's just been sitting in the shed, and it's plastic, but it looks kind of like metal and looks quite cute. So we thought we'd just utilise it and just more decoratively, really. It helps kind of hold everything in and perhaps protect things a little bit, but it's more for a decorative use. They're very difficult to install because I thought about doing them in between the rows as a bit of support, but they're really wobbly and flimsy. So we've opted just to secure them onto the wooden surround just to make it look nice. So that's the plan for that. And then I'm just going along staking each individual plant with a bamboo cane. And then I'm just going to form little kind of structures just to help them if they get buffeted about in the wind as they get bigger. So that's what we're up to. So following on from the 2 rows of straw flowers, salmon rose and silvery rose, we've then got Amobium elatum, which looks very similar to straw flowers, but a little bit different, so interesting to try that too. And these are all the different types of limonium that I'm growing, so yellow, a coral colour and some white. So if I get all these, I'll be very, very pleased. So overnight, I've got all the plants in, but overnight I've just covered it with some horticultural fleece because it was their first night in the soil. So just to make sure as an insurance policy, just put a bit of fleece over the top, but they will be fine. So I had a go at attaching the fence myself to the wooden board, but it wasn't terribly successful. So Alistair, who's meant to be getting on with other jobs, I ended up distracting him, as I seem to quite often do, and he came along with his air gun and very speedily attached the little fence for me, and I just put the bamboos in on each of the plants. And of course, as the plants grow up, I will tie them onto the bamboo as they grow. So all the bamboos are in. I'm just going to hoe in between the rows, just where I've been walking on the soil, just to hoe it up in between. And then I've just got the amaranthus to plant. So I've got 2 types of amaranthus. I've never grown amaranthus, it's completely new to me. I'm not even sure whether or not I like them. However, florists really rate them, really recommend them. So I thought I'd give them a go as I know nothing about them. And I've gone for 2 varieties. The first one is called Green Thumb, which is a sort of lime green zesty colour, which I thought would be a good contrast to other flowers. And the other one is called Pygmy Torch, which is a purpley colour. And the common name for amaranthus is Love Lies Bleeding. And both of these varieties have got an award of garden merit from the RHS, so that's always a good sign. I can never go too far wrong if you plant plants which have got this award. So let's see what they're like. So it's the following weekend and I'm back here in the vegetable garden, and you'll see behind me that everything's put on masses of growth since I planted it only last weekend. And we've been watering it. The drip hose, the leaky hose has been working very well. So everything's been well watered, and it's growing quite a lot. If you can hear in the background, there's thunder rumbling round quite dramatically, so I think we're in for a good downpour, which will help. We've had quite a busy weekend, but we haven't got on much further with the vegetable patch. We've got that still to do. But there's lots happening in the garden. We're doing so many different projects all at once, lots of things on the go. But as well as that, we've also been visiting other gardens and other things. We've got Chelsea coming up next week, and on Friday we visited the Malvern Spring Show, which was the first time I had been there, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Always learning, because we saw Alan Titchmarsh, heard him talking, which was really good. I'd never met him before, and also Jonathan Mosley, the florist, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Learned lots of techniques for flower arranging, which I'm always learning, always growing, not just growing flowers, but growing in knowledge, hopefully. So if you like what we do and you want to learn along with me, don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next video. Bye for now.